I'm just going to say about audit documentation. Obviously, we know how important the auditor's documentation is. So those are the auditor's work papers. The work papers have to support the work that you did as an auditor, and they have to be able to support the opinion that the auditor is giving on the financial statements. And so it's extremely important. Audit documentation is extremely, extremely important. We saw what happened when Anderson destroyed documentation. Key things, evidence. You have to have, especially with publicly held companies, with the PCAOB coming in and looking at publicly held companies, you have to be able to support, someone has to be able to pick up those work papers, review them, and be able to say, okay, I see how you arrived at this conclusion. Let's see here. Okay, I talked about that audit documentation is going to be reviewed by an experienced person. So what you'll see, there are different levels of review. It's going to be reviewed, obviously, if you're the staff person, you're performing the work, your work is going to be reviewed by the senior and possibly again reviewed by the manager and so forth. So there are different levels of review. I also talked about a concurring partner review. The current concurring partner is going to come in and look at the audit documentation, especially for mostly in those areas where there's more high risk, those high risk areas. Obviously, as I said, it has to support your conclusion and opinion reached. There's always been a documentation retention policy. Firms have their own documentation retention policy, but so does the PCAOB, right? And so auditors have to finalize their documentation within 45 days of the release of the audit report, and that's the release of the audit report they have to finalize, and not the release, not the date that they sign off on the financial statements. And also it has to be retained 7 years from the report release date. Those are the two key changes.